So this week we are going to be doing two-point perspective drawings of interiors of rooms or buildings. So I'm going to start with my living room, I'm going to show you an angle where I'm looking at the corner of the room. So it's very important. That's the difference between one-point and two-point perspective, is that now you're looking at corners rather than looking straight on. So the first thing I do is I find my vanishing points. And in this image, one of my vanishing points, the one on the right, is actually within the picture plane. And that means that the one on the left is far off to the side. So I actually use a piece of paper underneath, tape them together so that they stay consistent. And I draw a vanishing point all the way off to the left. And then I connect all of my lines that converge to the left back to that vanishing point, or I converge them to my right vanishing point, which is right there on the right side of the refrigerator. And or there are vertical lines. So for this example, I'm just going to do the contour lines, and then in pencil, and then I'm going to go in and finalize the drawing in ink. Um, but as you can see, all of the lines go back to either vanishing point um, or are vertical, and that's really important to make sure that you don't have any horizontal lines. There should be absolutely no need for a horizontal line. And there's the drawing finished, and that's the first assignment for your A3 sketchbook, is to do just a contour line drawing. Now I'm going to do another drawing. This is in my studio office where I'm sitting here teaching right now. And again, looking at the corner of the room, one vanishing point, as you can see, is very close to the edge of the paper, but it's just off the side of the paper and on the right, and then the left vanishing point is much further over. So what I recommend doing is printing out your photograph, taping it to paper, and running your lines back to figure out where they meet so you can find your vanishing point. And then you can run a horizon line between those two lines. And then think of your corner as like a vertical axis. And, um, and the thing I've been doing is scaling all of my dimensions. So for this one, I scaled it 1.5 times to go from A4 to A3. And as you notice, again, all my lines are running back to either of those vanishing points or are vertical. And so just going in here and laying in, I like to kind of think of the background working forward. So lay things in, I can erase them later when they're covered up by like the chair there. Um, and then the tiles on the floor. So the tiles on the floor will not have any horizontal lines or vertical lines. They're going to be completely all converging lines that run back to either direction. And for this one, I'm going to do a little bit more detail because I'm also going to add value. I save detail for the end. It's really work on your major shapes, your lines and angles. So there's the drawing kind of as a contour drawing, and now I'm going to go in and fill in. And so I like to kind of work again from the back, working forward. Sometimes I work from left to right, just so that my hand doesn't cover or smudge. I also tend to work from the top towards the bottom. And so just kind of right now, just going in with a 6B pencil and getting in my darks, and now a 4B pencil, getting some midtones. And I can build this up. Like it's okay to kind of start light and just build up the value as I'm doing here. So I'm kind of cross hatching with the pencil, um, to do my shading. So, diagonal lines and then the vertical lines. Just kind of try and build up the shadows to darken it as much as possible. And as you can see, just kind of building up to that pure black. This chair is black. The window. This photo is taken at night, so it's pure black. And but allowing for gradients so that I can show kind of that value range. As you can see, this closer chair has a mesh back, so I can kind of see through it, but still dark. Other thing I tend to do is shade in my directions of perspective. And that helps kind of build that illusion of depth and show distance and show that form. And sometimes I use a ruler just to kind of allow for me to create shadows that are straight. It's going in and just kind of adding the final details and pushing my darks just a little bit more on the shaded sides. Adding a little cast shadow where the light from above is just kind of creating shadow underneath areas and under the table and behind the curtains and so forth. And so there you have it. That's what I'm looking for your second drawing in the A3 is a value drawing of 2-point perspective. And that one was all done in pencil. So this is going to be a drawing of a museum in Germany that I was exhibiting in. And again, my vanishing points, one of them is going to be, the left-hand side is going to be inside the picture plane, whereas the one on the right is going to be far off to the side. And so the one that's far off to the side, I've actually drawn it on a separate piece of paper, but I have taped my drawing down to that paper so it doesn't move. You want to make sure it doesn't shift while you're drawing. And then as you can see, there's a vanishing point directly right there in the middle of the back wall. And so again, all of my lines are going to run back and forth between the two. Sorry, you can. My head got a little bit in the way there. Here I'm just trying to line everything up and draw everything as proportional as possible, and showing all these angles coming back to that vanishing point in the back. And this is for everything. All of the artwork that's being hung, the doors, all of the rafters and the ceiling, support beams, and even some of the furniture and display units. These cubes that you can sit on are actually tilted at different angles, so they're going to have different vanishing points. But I'm going to kind of draw those without using vanishing points, just kind of to sight the angle and try to replicate that as much as possible. And so now I'm going to come in and start to shade. Here I'm going to work from top to bottom so that my hand isn't smudging the shading. And I'm going to build it up just through layers. Revisit while I'm shading. I also revisit some of my shapes and lines, especially these curved lines. And it's just a exercise in layering and building up value so that it has more contrast, it has more depth. And you can see here I am drawing my shadows in these directions to show the kind of the direction or the cross contour of each plane, each wall, each line. and really make sure that I get my darks as dark as possible, adding some reflections in the floor where the furniture is actually creating shadows or reflections. Um, and then just kind of coming in and layering that in over and over. Really push your darks. I'm not seeing work that from you all that is too dark yet. So um, make sure that you really get in there and push it, and you can be kind of loose with like drawing the floor. It just kind of really go all the way across and quickly darken that up, so it doesn't have to be spend too much time on it. And then the last one is going to be bedroom. Um, and so I'm going to have very sharp angles here on this one. My left vanishing point is going to be kind of closer, um, and the right vanishing point is again going to go off to the far edge. And so you need to think about how the room is a box in it of itself, but you're inside the box, whereas the bed is the exterior of a box. So it's going to come towards you, whereas the room descends or converges towards the back. And then again, making sure I have no horizontal lines in this drawing. Everything is vertical or converges to the left or right. And so for the room, it converges out from that back corner, um, whereas the bed converges towards um, the vanishing points. And go in and just measure every little dimension. Making sure that your dimensions are all proportional. So that means that you scale everything to the same amount, right? If you double it, so for your A2 drawing, which is your final drawing for the week, you need to, if you're working with an A4 photograph, you need to double your dimensions, multiply them by 2. So once I've got all my lines done, I'm going to go in and just add all the details um, and kind of work those out. And now that it's all drawn in pencil, I can come in with a pen, and I'm going to define those lines. I'm actually going to shade this one in ink, but make sure I'm going to do all my line work first, and then I can go in and erase the graphite underneath. And this allows me to solidify what I think are going to be the correct lines. Again, I start with my more major shapes, major angles, and then do detail last. But just double checking all of my angles, making sure that those lines lead back to one of the vanishing points, depending on which direction it's going. And then come in and build up. So I'm starting with like a 50% gray here, just to get that back wall kind of figured out. But I'm leaving areas for where the lights are hitting the wall. So coming in now with like a 30% gray, and a darker like 70 and 90% gray for the bed and the nightstand. And really kind of just double checking, comparing to the photograph. And the best way to kind of compare your values to a photograph is to desaturate the photo, make it black and white, um, and then you can hold them next to each other and compare how dark and how light different areas are. So now I'm going to show you some student examples of these projects in the past. And so here is the kitchen. This is in the art room. But notice how all of them kind of lead back to this corner. There's no horizontal lines, all vertical or converging left, converging right. And even when you don't see those lines go all the way back, they exist. Those are the angles that you are trying to achieve in order to make it look as realistic as possible. And so if you have any questions, just email me this week. Good luck.